This Melchizedek was king of Salem, the priest of the Most High God. He met Abraham returning from the defeat of the kings and blessed him, and Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. First, his name means king of righteousness. Then also, king of Salem means king of peace, without mother or father, without genealogy, beginning of days or end of life. Like the Son of the Most High, he remains a priest forever. Just think how great he was. Even the patriarch Abraham gave him a tenth of the plunder. Now, the law requires descendants of Levi who become priests to collect a tenth from the people. That is, their brothers, even though their brothers are descended from Abraham. This man, however, did not trace his descent from Levi, yet he collected a tenth from Abraham and blessed him who had the promises. And without doubt, the lesser person is blessed by the greater. In the one case, the tenth is collected by men who die, but in the other case, by him who is declared to be living. One might say that Levi, who collects the tenth, paid the tenth through Abraham, because when Melchizedek met Abraham, Levi was still in the body of his ancestors. Sanmonan, Tewodros Amlak. Today I'd like to speak to you about, just like I did the last time when we were speaking about Melchizedek and initiation and the importance for a master. Excuse me. Today I would like to speak to you about who or what is this Melchizedek. I just read from Hebrews 7. And just as you heard, right, this priesthood is not a priesthood like the priesthood out there. We do not preach a doctrine. We do not preach a narrative. This priesthood is a priesthood of the Most High. And if we say the Almighty is one, and Spirit is one, and love is one all over the world, then the Melchizedek order, the Melchizedek priesthood, is the priesthood of the world. It is what the Catholic Church and the Orthodox churches tried to create with the Catholic Church. The word Catholic meaning universal, and Melchizedek is a universal divine word that all men have within themselves. And a true priesthood, a true organization of man, should transcend clan, should transcend national descent, should transcend race and status. And what Melchizedek did, as we just read, he blessed the one person who was blessed by the greatest blesser, as it is said in this book, by the greatest hand ekhona la kule ncwadi. When Abraham was blessed by the Most High, he blessed him to be the father of the nations, to be the patriarch of all the Jews. And no one can bless what is already blessed. But Melchizedek came and blessed him. And when Abraham gave Melchizedek his thanksgiving, like 10% is figurative. 10% is a piece of your strength, a piece of your dedication. He took up the priesthood of Melchizedek. And then he gave up. I don't want to say he gave up. He opened up his blessings. For even out of him, the priesthood of Levi came out of, since he is the grandfather of the 12 tribes. Right? So, this Melchizedek is without mother, without father, without beginning of days, and without end of life. When you think about it, and remember, we need to be factual, right? We need to be critical thinkers as people, and also as searchers of knowledge, searchers of the light, or followers of the light. We need to be critical thinkers. What type of human being is born without mother and father? That is impossible. I think even a small little child would tell you what type of person doesn't have a mommy and a daddy, right? What type of person was not born and will never die? It is the you that has always been. It is what we would like to call the risen man, the risen manifested Spirit of the Almighty within man, the super sentient energy that flows through all things. So this Melchizedek is more greater than what they allude to. Well, they say it. It's written there that the lesser is always blessed by the greater. And none are greater than Abraham when it comes to the doctrine of this Bible, or this book called the Bible. None are greater except then for Adam, since he is their first man. This Melchizedek, the order, transcended time, transcended nation, transcended race. Because all ascended masters in the world, all the great wise men of the world, whether it is the wise men of the East, whether it is the recent wise men of the West, even us here, the ancient thinkers, Melchizedek, or in Ethiopia, in Amharic, in Ge'ez, is Melchizedek, Melchizedek. You will find that every single tool that these great masters have written about Melchizedek, that they say that Melchizedek has brought unto the world, for the world to go according to divine law and universal progress, the universal progression of things, logic, nature, right? All of these symbol tools, all of these tools, all of these workings, we find them photosynthwini, because there is something great within us that has always been, And even after we leave here, it shall remain here, because it has work to do. And in every single age, the priesthood comes back. In every single age, when men are in need of the light of the Almighty, light of the Most High, this great order, this monumentous order, this auspicious order, this august organization arises again. And it doesn't stay for too long. It leaves the right tools for people to do what they need to do. It leaves the right spaces so that when people start to search for the light, it is easier for them to find it. But then also, because I did say that Melchizedek is the universal divine word, this word that flows through all of us, it must always be spoken. It must always be professed. And those who profess it, the soul of the earth comes and connects with them. This soul of the earth is the memory of the earth. Because in the earth there is information. The earth is a living being. The earth is more than 50% silicon and mineral, both metal and stone and rocks. So it is a crystal, and crystals capture information. The mineral world is the world in which information is stored. And the Melchizedek order reminds us of that. It reminds us to look within ourselves, because also within ourselves there's iron, there's magnesium, the same minerals which are there. We just need to connect. And once we connect, we will rise. And our brother, you will hear us, or maybe you have heard us often, say, calling Jesus, son of Joseph, our brother, and all those who were with him, all 12 of them, plus then those who then came after. All right, all our brothers. Or let me focus on Uputi Omdala. Umtaka Josepha left his father's or his mother's people, and they went to Egypt. Then in Egypt, he then started his education, where his mother had gotten the education when they were running away from Herod. All right, and there he was educated by Salome, along with Elizabeth, the mother of John, when they ran away from King Herod. In these ancient schools of Egypt was where, as I was saying, that the teachings of Melchizedek asesintwini. Isintu most funakahle, or the way in which to live isintu, is the 42 confessions of Ma'at. And it was never such a hoo-ha thing like we make it out to be today. It was everyday life. And Uma'ati is the system of the divine feminine. And this divine feminine then is what first the Melchizedek encompasses. This divine feminine is what holds us together, this love. And then from there, after he went, he had to then connect with his masculine side. He had to go back home. He got baptized at home. Uputike came back as a Melchizedek priest, having learned from 7 masters out there in Egypt. But they were not all from Egypt. There was one from Persia. There was one from Greece. There was one from India. And when he came back after doing his 7-year initiation, like all Melchizedek priests have to do a 7-year initiation, he came back to remind the people. In every single passage here in this book, uputi ukhumbuza abantu bakubo. He is reminding his fellow Yahudim, his fellow Jews, about things which happened to their ancestors. He's reminding them about things which happened when their ancestors did not keep their promises. He's reminding them of times when there was no love in the community and all the times that things went wrong. He reminds them of a time when their ancestors were lost for 40 years in the desert. He reminds them of a time when even after they got into the promised land, or the land which was promised to them, their kings as well started to fall because of certain things. And people always say that, they always like to quote Christ and say, no, Christ did not come to change things, he came to edify. You cannot add to spirit. You cannot subtract from spirit. But Christ, like all Melchizedek priests, the duty is to remind people of the furthest reaches and possibilities of spirit. There are so many things that we are not speaking about as a people because they are uncomfortable, because we feel judged by it. And the light came, and people judged themselves and found themselves wanting. When the truth comes, when the Melchizedek priest starts to speak the truth, just as it happened to our brother, it happens to us. People will fight because they feel like you're trying to strip them away of that which they are comfortably resting on. But the time for comfortably resting is over. We need to rise, otherwise we are going to fall. And when we fall, we won't fall, those individuals will fall. Those individuals will fall. No, we will fall as a species. We will not just fall as a race. It's not just that if we the Bantu collect ourselves and rebuild our grandeur, it is not that we will rise and then the rest. No. It is a cosmic thing. It is a universal thing. It is a planetary thing. But we need to fix things here on the planetary level first, before we can then start to deal with things on a cosmic level. A lot of us are reading the Bible, and we do not understand that this Bible is a cosmic map. This Bible is also a planetary map, but this Bible is also a inner physiology map. This Bible is a calculation of time and history's map. And we need to be able to deal with these things on each level with their understandings. Kahle futhi, not wanting to get into what the world is trying to do now, to grab as much of God as possible for themselves. That is not what the Melchizedek priesthood is about. All right, so when we speak about now Melchizedek coming into the world to remind people how to rise, remind people how to re-enter a state of oneness, re-enter a state of realization. The first step would be to deal with planetary ascension. As a planetary ascension, people like to speak of it as something that is out of this world, so to speak. They speak of it as if it's something non-planetary. And just as the word is explaining itself, right? Planetary ascension is ascending from izinto zala emhlabeni, is ascending from slavery, from your emotions. It's ascending from what ties us from the higher planes above us. Khona masiko lapho, khona imbeleko lapho, khona, there's all those things. And when you look at all these traditions, right, all these cultures around the world which have these ascended masters, who have these Melchizedek priests, your Buddhists, your Taoists, your Hindus, Islam with the Sufi, because the Sufi is a Melchizedek interpretation by the Arabs or by the Muslim, right? All of them have a rites of passage. All of them have a system of introducing a child into the community. All of them also have a system of introducing the child to the great spirit around us or within us and everywhere. The all in all, right? After that, it is then the 7 initiations, the 7-year initiations, which I'm currently busy with. These 7 initiations, because there's 7 chakras, right? These 7 initiations, what they deal with is all the aspects of yourself, all the spaces in which you exist in. If you are to become new, or a new energy is to enliven you, is to become one with you, since we have been separate or separated from that which we should have been one with in the first place. These 7 initiations, or these workings on the 7 parts of you, make sure that by the time you finish a whole stage of your life, which is 7 years, you have completely entered a new world. You have changed the fabric of your existence, because it is not the human existence which will take up the work of the Melchizedek order. It is that which is behind it. It is that which is above it. It is that which is to the sides and below it, but not this. It's that which is here. It's that which is here. And it's that which is there. Your mind must be focused in a certain place. The works of your hands must be focused in a certain place, or they must work a different type of work than what you used to work. They must not work the works of iniquity. Where you walk must be iy'nyathelo zakho. They need to be in the spaces of righteousness. You cannot, in 1 Corinthians 10, you cannot sit with, or you cannot eat at the table of the Most High and eat from the table of the demons. You cannot drink from the cup of the demons and drink from the cup of the Most High. Do you want to make him jealous? And when you promise yourself something, when you decide something for yourself, right, which is something beautiful, and you do the other thing, why do you think things go wrong? That which was happy and inspired that you actually thought of, that great thing that you aspired for yourself and you didn't do, starts to become jealous. You excite abantu abadala with the things which they desire, because spirit is the untouchable fabric of that which we aspire for ourselves. Spirit flows through everything, and once you charge energy and you don't use it, it's going to blow somewhere. There's going to be a shortage somewhere. There's going to be a breakage somewhere. And that breakage is going to happen within yourself. So, when Christ carried on with his teachings, he went to India and they taught him about the silence. The silence we call today meditation, thoughtful contemplation or solitary contemplation. And with this silence, that is where now you start to hear the voice of that which you aspire. You hear the voice, the universal logos, the universal divine word, which is Melchizedek. Yazi makuthiwa inkosi nathi. We all hear it. We all know it. When they said the Lord is with us, we all know it. No one needs to be told. And the Melchizedek, then a Melchizedek priest or the Melchizedek priesthood is a realization, and those who have realized do not need to be told. And those who have freely received must freely give. And that is the only way. Those who have freely received must freely give. And when we freely give, that is when we'll be able to expand ourselves. And by expanding ourselves, you can't grow more than you have. Expanding yourself is to become one with someone else. Because we are one with them. That is what we mean by expansion. And the Melchizedek order is, on top of being the order that deals with the ascension of man at the 10 of the age, as we are at now, what they term the Photon band, right? And we have transitioned into the space where we have entered that space, this vortex where universal knowledge is freely accessible to us, where man must either ascend or descend. Right now we are ascending, and we have been ascending for past 1,000 years, 1,500 years, 600, probably well over 2,000 years if we look at it from the last ascended master, which is our brother Jesus, son of Joseph. And then there's the time of Emperor Haile Selassie. And it is in this age. I remember the last time I said Emperor Haile Selassie was named by Time magazine the man of the millennium. And that millennium is not over yet. That 1,000 years is not over yet. But it's coming to a close. And we are slowly shifting out of the Photon band. Ilento go Revelations ekuthiwa those who are wicked, let them be wicked still. Those who are righteous, let them be righteous still. Because after we have transitioned out of this space which we were supposed to grow in, there is no other time for those who have not found it to find it. What they will do is to hear people talk about it. Those who have found it. Alright, so the Melchizedek priest. The Melchizedek priest is a prophet, priest, king. Just like Melchizedek, who after he had helped people, they built a wall around him, right? Which is then today Jerusalem in Hebrew. Jerusalem is Jerusalem. And that is that city that, and it's funny, you know, into enhle bawungafuni ukudisturb uzoyikampela, you will try to cage it. And when I first read that story, I found it very peculiar. I found it funny that all those who revered Melchizedek as a wise man, as a king, as a prophet, as a priest, they built walls around him and carried on doing their nonsense outside. And they only came inside, and he could not leave that city that he was king of. And they came to him. But what they did not know was expansion. Njengoba isimplicity ukuzala ukuzelula. When we become Melchizedek priests, we are born again. And this born again thing, people, they don't understand it. They think it's some Jesus thing. You know. But Jesus himself, Jesus son of Joseph, by himself he was born again. As he had told Nicodemus, how can you return back into your mother's womb? This we do not, it's not something you are born with. You have a gift that you are born with. And hopefully one day you will find it. This is something that is universal. And for our brother, Jesus, son of Joseph, for him to realize this thing, he had to get initiated, right? As we were saying. And out of the 7 initiations, he went and also learned medicine and the art of healing, right? Stay in the Aquarian Gospel. And this medicine, actually, let me read it for you. And this medicine healing that he learned is what we term today as self-knowledge. Because not knowing yourself is sickness. Not being one with universal law is sickness. Not being one with the people is sickness. This is the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ. I'm going to read from Jesus sought to learn the Hindu art of healing and became the pupil of Udraka, the greatest of the Hindu healers. He said, "The laws of nature are the laws of health, and he who lives according to these laws is never sick. Transgression of these laws is sin, and he who sins is sick. He who obeys the laws maintains an equilibrium in all his parts, and thus ensures true harmony, and harmony is health, while discord is disease. That which produces harmony in all the parts of man is medicine, ensuring health. The body is a harpsichord, and when its strings are too relaxed or are too tense, the instrument is out of tune. The man is sick. Now, everything in nature has been made to meet the wants of man. So everything is found in medical arcanes. And when the harp of man is out of tune, the vast expansion of nature may be searched for remedy. There is a cure for every ailment of the flesh. Of course, the will of man is remedy supreme. By the vigorous exercise of will, man may make tense a cord that is relaxed, or may relax one that is too tense, and thus may heal himself. And this healing, did you hear that? You are healing yourself. You are finding a space of peace within yourself. Because that which makes man sick is not being in the right place, is not putting in the right effort, is too many minds. And you know, when the Chinese talk about too many minds, your focus is divided. And when your focus is divided, you're in a state of sickness. Because health is harmony. And when the cells of our body are fighting themselves, we will find ourselves in the greatest of wars. And with this war that you find yourself in, your body is at war with itself, your mind is at war with itself. The world is essentially at war with you because you are not one with it. Hence, then we call it a dis-ease, a sickness, right? And then we did say that, of course, the will of man is remedy supreme. Your will, your focus, where you attend your energy to, right, is remedy supreme. And by the vigorous exercise of will, man way make tense a cord that is relaxed, or may relax one that is too tense, and thus may heal himself. When man has reached the place where he has faith in God, and God is the object of your focus, the highest ideals for yourself. That's why when you wish something great for yourself and you do not do it, that which you do not do, or that which you wish to do or you should do, you do not do, and that which you do not do is that which you do. You find yourself in devastation. You find yourself in what we call purgatory. You find yourself in damnation, right? Once man has reached the place where he has faith in God, in nature, and himself, the three spaces in which spirit exists in, is our connection with the Almighty, ourselves, and the world around us. He knows the word of power. Remember, I said there is no knowledge that is outside of you. So you remember this word of power. This word of power will essentially be according to the object of your focus, right? A lot of people have words of power that they accustomed to because of the lifestyle which they live, and once they assert that word of power, it's as if they invoke the spirit of that which they have wished for themselves, right? His word is balm for every wound. His cure or is cure for all the ills of life. The healer is the man who can inspire faith. The tongue may teach to human ears, but souls are reached by souls that teach to souls. And remember, I said the Melchizedek priest is not a physical man. It is a cosmic memory. It is a soul memory of the earth. And when a Melchizedek speaks to you, he does not speak to your physical brain. He speaks to your eternal mind of things that only the soul in you, or your soul and the soul of the earth, can correspond. And because we are one, we all remember the same things, right? That is true healing. He is the forceful man whose soul is large and who can enter into souls, inspiring hope in those who have no hope, and faith in those who have no faith in God, in nature, nor in man. There is no universal balm for those who tread the common walks of life. Like I said, true healing, only you can deal with the true healing when you deal with the things that really matter, and only you know what really matters to you. And we extend, or we give our power to so many other people. We give our power to priests, we give our power to teachers, we give our powers to doctors, in places where we should be taking the effort to actually grow ourselves. Yes, teachers are good, they will guide us. Yes, doctors have their purpose, but there's the essentials that only we can deal with. You know what you ate that made you sick. Don't eat it anymore. Simple. There's those things. Rather than eating it again, going to the doctor. Eating it again, going to the doctor. You understand what I mean? And 1,000 things produce inharmony and make men sick. 1,000 things may tune the harp and make men well. That which is medicine for one person, for one, is poison for another. So one is healed by what would kill another one. So even what I call God, or what I call the highest ideals for myself, they might become a peril to you, right? So find yourself. Like the old masters of our order said, Tau Harmanuba, the great Trismegistus, Thought Hermes, the one from Egypt, right? Which is a concept. This ancient master talks about knowledge of self. Know yourself and ye shall know the universe and all its gods. And once you find yourself, even that which I come with, or that which gives me life, you will know whether it gives you life or not. I will not need to convince you, because the knowledge for it is already there. You already know what is good for you. You already know what is it that nourishes you. A herb may heal the one. A drink of water may restore another one. A mountain breeze may bring to life one seeming past all help. A coal of fire or bit of earth may cure another one, and one may wash in certain steams or pools and be made whole. So this Hindu priest, this Hindu master, this guru, or Udraka, he was teaching Christ about healing. And because when you become a Melchizedek priest, you leave physical, not even say leave physical things, you start to deal with much higher things. So if a person has a body and they are sick, the body is sick. But the body being sick is a result of that which is not being physical, being in dis-ease. And that is what Christ was being taught of. So, the Melchizedek priest is a prophet, a priest, and a king. In the temples of Moses and Aaron, the temples were spaces of healing. The temples were spaces for the administration of the cultural rights of the people. The temples were never spaces where people sat to listen to other people speak. Temples were spaces where if you were sick, like the lepers who went there, and then the priests would lather them in herbs and fats and everything, and then they would have to stay in the temple or quarantined outside in the designated tents up until they are fine, right? And then after they are fine, then offerings are done for them, and so forth and so forth. This our nation, the world, not even our nation, the world is sick because there is a certain place we're not looking to, which is the space in which God exists. Not up there, not in heaven. We're too obsessed with things which are too far away from us. That's why we are so sick. We are too separate. We are separated from the Almighty. We are separated from the truth. We are separated from nature. And thus we are separated from ourselves. Individually and as a people. That's why we are able to misuse one another and enslave one another and abuse one another and go to war and kill one another. And this healing is part of the prophethood of the Melchizedek. There is no Melchizedek priest that should be amongst the people and the people remain sick. Because when a Melchizedek speaks, he speaks to the soul. Whatever he does caters to the non-physical, energetical body of man. Thus then we have crystal healing, we have reikis, we have chiatsus, we have tai chis, we have qigong, we have yoga, we have so forth and so forth. All of those are ways in which man has been given tools by these ascended masters of the Melchizedek order to reach the state. And for us to be able to connect, for us to be able to reach that space, we need that solitary thoughtfulness. We need that silence. We need that contemplation, the thoughtful contemplation in silence called meditation. And this meditation, you are entering a space in which all your bodies are lined up. You're entering the space in which Melchizedek then exists in. Because you should be able to deal with physical things of the world because people are stuck in physical things. You should be able to go there and speak to people according to their understanding. You should be able to enter a space of learned people and speak to them on the level at which they're at, which is still here. But then there's also spaces of the cosmic levels in which the Melchizedek priest then must enter. These cosmic levels then deal with the what people call the spiritual, I like to call the ethereal bodies, the energetic existence of man. These bodies are not our bodies per se. These bodies are essentially one body, the body of the Most High, the body of the all energy, the body of the super sentient, super intelligent energy that flows through all things, just on different frequencies, just on different levels. The most bottom of them all being us, man. The highest of them all being the body of the Most High. And this body of the Most High is a mystic body. It's not a physical thing. It is a state in which once you are in it, even if someone or something, or have you ever heard of someone getting into a place and then all of a sudden animals just attract to that person, or a person gets into a space and then the wind just starts to go wild, or a person goes to the water and then the water starts to act in a certain uncontrollable way, or ununderstandable way, or in an abnormal manner. That person is vibrating on a high state. That person is tapped in to these cosmic bodies. And as a Melchizedek priest, because we are readers, we are thinkers, we are writers, we are always connected with the past, we are connected with the present, and we are connected with the future. And we are constantly in a state of meditation. Or even right now I'm meditating. Hence the silence. And people will not understand why I'm speaking to people and then I'll keep quiet. Because there is a state where once we start to speak, that the healer speaks to the souls of the souls, that the soul speaks to the soul to teach the soul. But ascended masters come to us as all people in the world and give us what we call inspiration. Because we are breaking the limits of our frequency at that moment. We are opening doors to different rooms that previously were not accessible to us. And constantly then a Melchizedek priest must be in meditation with their focus always on cosmic ascension, with their focus always on service to man, with their focus always on, above, I would say, all things, truth and knowledge of self and love. Just as our brother Yeshua ben Yosef, Jesus son of Joseph, said that if we look at the planetary laws, or the laws which govern us men, and for them, since they are Yahudim, since they are Jews, it would then be the Ten Commandments, right? He said, your fathers were unable to keep their covenant. Your fathers were unable to keep to their promise, to these laws. And these laws are 10. But I started with 5, and I came with 5, because these laws are 5 laws of the body and 5 laws of cosmic nature. It is laws on communal existence and self-regulation, right? And then it is the laws on matters dealing with the Almighty, matters dealing with non-physical things. All right, so then we want to deal with, I said a Melchizedek priest is a prophet, a priest, and a king, right? We then going to deal with then all the hey, it's funny. Yes, it's funny. But hey, all the how may I put this? All the natures a king must embody, all the aspects of a king's stature, his honor, right? And these are of the 7 initiations of the Melchizedek. These are the ones that Jesus, we're still in the Aquarian Gospel. This Aquarian Gospel exact I'm reading from comes from the way of the Shemsu Hara, or the divine Christhood of light, the initiation into the mysteries of the Melchizedek order of BokuKhanya by Ubaba Usilo Samanzi Ayalew Amlak Wolde Haile Selassie Heru Sekem Ankh Amun. So the first of these degrees was serenity. Okay. And a king who is not sincere, or who does not live a life within the space of serenity or peace, ukuthula, is going to have a really big problem, because then they will be at war with themselves, and they'll never be able to look beyond their noses like our kings today. Serenity is tied with humbleness, because when a person first comes into the teachings, or into the apprenticeship of a master, they need to humble themselves. They need to, if they were the richest men in the world, they must forget that they were the richest men in the world. If they were powerful, they must set aside what they think is power, right? And the second of these degrees was justice, the power of discernment, the power to see wrong and right, but then also the ability to show the way forward, because you cannot guide someone, you cannot show someone how to live if you do not live that way. You cannot pass judgment, and thus you cannot be an instrument of justice if your life is contrary to what you say. Your life needs to be aligned to what you speak. What you speak needs to be evidence of the life that you live. So, a king without that, I'd like to read just a line from this. Right here. Approaching Jesus, one spoke out and said, "Young man, our hearts are grieved because of what you suffer in these fearful dens, and we have come as friends to bring you light and show the way to liberty. We once, like you, were in these dens confined and thought that through these weird, uncanny ways we could attain to blessedness and power. But in a lucful moment, we were undeceived, and making use of all our strength, we broke our chains. And then we learned that all this service is corruption in disguise. These priests are criminals just hid away." Right? So, aphinde-ke umfowabo Josepha athi, in reply to them, your little tapers show the light you bring. Pray, who are you? The words of man are worth no more than is the man himself. These temple walls are strong and high. How gained you entrance in this place? The man replied, beneath these walls are many hidden ways, and we who have been priests, spent months and years within these dens, know all of them. Then you are traitors, Jesus said. Here's what I won't put it down. So these people who come to him, they find him meditating, right? Like a hermit, because he was a hermit for a couple of years. So the dens that they're talking about are holes in mountains, like what the hermits of Ethiopia and Armenia, the Orthodox Gnostic monks, the lifestyle which they live. And they found him there and they said, "Hey man, no, you're imprisoning yourself in we have lived that life and we broke out. We know for a fact, we know what's gonna happen if you stay here, right?" And he's like, "Hey man, how did you get here? How do you know these things? And if you know these things, why aren't you showing it? Why isn't the things that you are speaking not what I am seeing?" And then they tell him, "No, we have been priests before." And Asbonile would, "No, this is criminology. It means that you are traitors," right? So you cannot pass judgment if you are not in the path of truth, because he knows what it's like to be a priest, and he sees and hears words which coming from mouths that sound like priests. Why are they not living like priests? You speak like a king, but you don't do the works of a king. You do not do the works of righteousness. You are not a facilitator of justice, right? And then the third of them is faith. Faith is like water. It's always there. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. And a king who doesn't have faith, because all kingship, um, royal orders, all royalhood is divine, or is based on a divineness, on a divinity that gives them a right to rule, right? And that is why all kingdoms, all nations or they sit on and rest on two pillars. They rest on the governance, and they rest on the spirituality. Ukhona inkosi, ube nesanosi sakhe. In some cases, like we see today, since the age of Sanusis is unlike before. Some of our kings, like times of old, sit with their mothers, and their mothers in most cases are what we term today sangoma. In most cases, so the king deals with the administration, and Indlovukazi, noma Indlovukati, deals with the spiritual aspect of the nation. So a people without faith are like a people without mother and father. A people without truth, without a foundation, because that's what faith is. It is the non-tangible truth. It is a truth that all men feel. It is it exists, as you would tell yourself. No, this exists. I feel it. I know it deep inside me. And even if someone tried to tell you otherwise, you would stay there. And faith in God, like I said, God is the object of your focus. So when you have faith in that which you believe in, when you set yourself to a certain goal and you go to it with all yourself, with all your faith, you have not accomplished your highest ideal, but you know it, you feel it, you have seen it, right? And a king must have that. A king must have foresight. And those are the things that come with faith, right? And then the fourth of those degrees is philanthropy. Philanthropy is charity, giving to the needy, giving to the helpless. But philanthropy is ambiguous, because what we are doing right now is philanthropy. There is a gem that you are receiving that you do not pay for. And even if you took out all the money in the world, you still would not be able to afford this gem anyways. So the spread of the information or the giving of knowledge itself is philanthropy. And when a king does not have philanthropy as one of these pillars, he's also not able to extend himself, right? So thus then the great masters, that was the fourth degree that our brother was given, the degree of philanthropy. And I will also just try to just touch on it. Okay. The men and women richly clad were there, and they were wild with joy. They sipped from every cup with mirth, or cup of mirth. And Jesus, son of Joseph, watched the happy throng in silence for a time. And then a man in garb of sage came up and said, "Most happy is the man who, like the bee, can gather sweets from every flower. The wise man is the one who seeks for pleasure and can find it everywhere. At best, man's span of life on earth is short, and then he dies and goes, he knows not where. Then let us eat, drink, and dance, and sing, and give the joys of life, for death comes on apace. It is but foolishness to spend a life of other men. Behold, all die and all lie together in the grave, where none can now and none can show forth gratitude." But Jesus answered not. Upon the tinselled guests in all their rounds of mirth, he gazed in silence and thought. Then among the guests he saw a man whose clothes were coarse, who showed in face and in hands the lines of toil and want. The giddy throng found pleasure in abusing him. They jolted him against the wall and laughed at his discomfiture. Then a poor frail woman came, who carried in her face the form and marks of sin and shame, and without mercy said she was spit upon and jeered and driven from the hall. Then a little child with timid ways and hungry mien came in and asked for just a morsel of their food, but she was driven out, uncared for and unloved, and still the merry dance went on. I'll just carry on. I tell you, nay, we are all kin, each one are a part of the great human heart. I cannot see myself apart from that poor man that you so scorned and crowded to the wall, nor from the one in female garb who came up from the haunts of vice to ask for sympathy and love, and who was by you so ruthlessly pushed back into the dens of sin. Nor from the little child that you drove from your midst to suffer in the cold, bleak winds of night. I tell you, men, what you have done to these, my kindred, you have done to me. You have insulted me in your own home. I cannot stay. I will go forth and find that child, that woman, and that man, and give them help until my life's blood has been abated away. I call it pleasure when I help the helpless, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, heal the sick, and speak good words to cheer to those unloved, discouraged, and depressed. And this that you call mirth is but a phantom of the night that flashes of the fire of passion, painting pictures on the walls of time. When the Logos spoke, when the divine word spoke, the white-robed priest came in and said to him, "The council waits for you." Umfora Jesu stood again before the bar. Again, no word was said. The Hierophant placed in his hands a scroll on which was wrote Philanthropy, and Jesus was a victor over selfish self. So, umfowethu ke lana, remember, right? He goes through these tests to receive these degrees, and in most cases, you will find that people who have it all do not have the space in themselves to give it all, not even a piece of it. And if we say we are one, if we say we are connected with the world around us and the Almighty, it would be impossible for us to be happy while we see that others are not. It will mean that this mirth, this joy, is no more mirth, it's no more merriness, it's drunkenness. What are we drunk with? We are drunk with power. We are drunk with illusion. We are drunk with greed. We are drunk with ukunganeliseki, an insatiable hunger for that which we do not know. And he passed that test, and that's when he was given that scroll for, just like in university you get a scroll, a degree. He then received his degree for philanthropy, because it is not that the man was hungry or the child was hungry. It was not that the man was not well dressed. It is not that the woman wanted to change her life. They just needed someone to recognize them. They needed someone who will speak with them. And it does say here that, and speak good words of cheer to those unloved, discouraged, and distressed. And that is what the Melchizedek does. That a Melchizedek will remind you of the Almighty inside of you. And once you remember that, you will be in a state of peace, perpetual peace, undisturbed, untarnishable, untaintable peace. Right? And then the 5th degree which he got was heroism. And a king who does not embody the spirit of heroism, we cannot venerate him. We cannot raise him upon high. We cannot call him a victor. We cannot raise these ancient doors and let him come through, like it says in the Psalms, of our great king and her empress. We cannot call that king a king and his queen a queen of glory. Not because they did not win in wars, but because they did not fight for the truth. And this heroism is in speaking the truth even when it means your death. Being the one that is the vehicle for great things to happen, even when people do not want them to happen. Because you will be attacked for it. And essentially you are attacked for doing or believing in something that is good for all of us, in essence. So heroism cannot be tied to individualism. Heroism is a selfless act. That's why it comes after philanthropy. And our brother had to be a victor over his selfish self for him to become this hero. Okay, and then the 6th of the degrees was love divine. Love divine, loving kindness, unconditional love. You know this concept? Hey, it's greater than all of us. Love divine. First, the concept of love is greater than us. The concept of divinity is greater than us. Love divine, it does not exist wedwa. Love divine can only be witnessed when we interact with one another. We only get to see how much God loves us, and I will say it in a way that a lot of people will understand. We will only get to see how much God loves us and how much God is working in our lives when we do it for one another. We will only be able to see the presence of the Almighty in our lives when we are there for one another. We will only be able to see how far the Almighty can go for us when we go to the ends of the earth for one another. But that's why I say love divine is a concept that is, it could fill the ocean and spill over. It could fill, if we were to take out all the water of the oceans and put love divine, even the continents would be covered. It is a never-ending part of life that all human beings must embody. And when we as society start to embody it, when nations start to have loving kindness, interdependency, we start to rise as a people. And for ages we have been rising. We have been rising. And in our rising, we have reached now this point where we need now to reach the top of this pinnacle. And this top of this pinnacle is then the last degree that our brother got. This last degree, he then had to go back to Usiko. And he learnt about Usiko through the mysteries of Egypt. And then he was taken then lage azokwenzela what izangoma and the Nyanga fraternity called ukuvuma ukufa. To now, because I have learned all these things, I must leave that which could fight these things and come into a space where these things are the fabric of my nature. That which was before must die. And remember, he received the name Ulogos, and he received his number U7. And in his 7th degree, he must die. And for that name to come alive, when we, the Melchizedek priests, are baptized, we receive a new name, the name of the Almighty, Tewodros Amlak. Tewodros meaning gift of God. Since the etymology is Greek, it's the gift of Adonis, right, or Adonai in Hebrew. So a gift of God is not a physical thing. Your mother cannot give birth to a gift of God. So you must come into this name. It must exist. Uthabo noma umvela phezu kwerufu ashaya ekhanda phansi melafe. And in some cases, or in most cases, we find that because our mothers, they saw God in us, hence they gave us names of their highest aspirations. In most cases, when you get baptized, you find that the name that you get is similar to your birth name. And this teaching of death must come with the teaching of life. And this teaching of life was then the teaching of a resurrection. That with every season comes life. And with every season, that life must die. But there is a seed which is left, and that seed is the Melchizedek order. That we rise and 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 rise, reach the pinnacle, the seed is planted, and then we go back to the bottom. That seed that we had planted, the Melchizedek, they plowed the land. They left the soil fertile, so that when the day the seed ihluma futhi, the day that seed sprouts again, that tree is just as strong as the last tree that grew there. So, in his lessons then, ekuvumeni kwakhe ukufa, amaXhosa athi ukunqwamba. Ekuvumeni kwakhe ukufa, umfowabo Josepha wavuma ukufa ekuvukeni kwakhe ukuthi abe umfowabo kaNkulunkulu. We're not talking about this 1,000-year-old this 1,000-year-old narrative that a person can physically die and physically come back. No, man, come on, guys, let's grow up, right? We're talking about now the self, right? So the teaching that he got was, let me just go back. He learned the secrets of the mystic law of Egypt, the mysteries of life and death, and of the worlds beyond the circle of the sun, solar system. When he had finished all the studies of the senior course, he went into the chamber of the dead. Ekvumeni ukufa, not a physical chamber, right? He went into the state of wanting the old him to die, wanting that which was born of mother and father, which has physical limitations, to die, right? Then he might learn the ancient methods of preserving from decay the bodies of the dead, and here he wrote, right? So he was also then taught how to mummify, but then also how to, when you preserve your body, it's not this body that we are preserving. This body is going to die and decay. The body that we are trying to preserve, to mummify, to not die and decay, is a non-physical body, right? And carriers brought the body of a widow's son only to be sons only to be embalmed, and the weeping mother followed close. Her grief was great, and Jesus said, "Good woman, dry your tears. You follow but an empty house. Your son is not in it. You weep because your son is dead. Death is a cruel word. Your son can never die. He had a task assigned to do in garb of flesh. He came, he did his work, and then he laid the flesh aside. He did not need it anymore. Beyond your human sight, he has another work to do, and he will do it well, and then pass on to other tasks. And by, he will attain the crown of perfect life. And what your son has done, and what he yet must do, we all must do." I don't know if you hear this. That this flesh is a garment, right? And there was work that the son had to do in that garb. Just like someone who's a pilot, they cannot fly a plane in a work suit, or someone who's a chef cannot wear a doctor's uniform. Someone who's a priest cannot wear a dancer's uniform, right? So all tasks in the universe have a garb for them. And right now we have work that we must do in this garment, in this container. And after we die, like I said, there are multiple bodies, right? And these bodies of ours, well, this is the only one which is ours. All these other ones, like I said, are essentially the one body, just on different vibrations. And there is different work. After we leave this earth, we are going to continue working. That is why in Psalm 110 it says, "You shall be a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek." Forever is a very long time. Since the world or the universe has started, forever has not come yet. And we don't know when the world started, because we are still here. We can't say forever has come, right? So, and what your son has done, and what he must do, he will do well. Now, if you harbor grief and give your sorrows vent, they will grow greater every day. They will absorb your very life until at last you will be naught but grief, wet down with bitter tears. Instead of helping him, you grieve your son by your deep grief. He seeks your solace now as he has ever done. Is glad when you are glad, is saddened when you are grieved. Go bury deep your woes and smile at grief, and lose yourself in helping others dry their tears. So, because you know the grief, you know the best way to comfort someone. Ile nto amtshela yona ukuthi instead of crying, because growing up they used to say, "Hi, when an old person passes away, don't cry because you are holding them back from going to where they need to go." Right? Don't cry. And essentially, this is what it's saying, because we are tied with the energetic bodies through DNA signatures and all those things. It's electricity, right? The conductor in me is conducting with those I am related to physically, right? So this bloodline has a conductor in the DNA that is conducting in the physical world and the other side. So if I am vibrating on a certain type of way, or I am speaking in a certain type of way, because when we speak we create, and when we create we change vibration, right? When we grieve, when we complain, when we are drawing the attention of that type of energy to those which we are connected to, and then they too, they feel it. If I call them they, I don't think they still qualify as they, because now they are part of the it, right? I don't think it can connect with you in the way that you need it to when you are not connecting with it in that way either. So the circuit is broken, right? So with duty done comes happiness and joy. So hambo sebenza, sebenzisa lokho kwaziko, and uzobona ukuthi, wow, service to man has healed me, because I know the deepness of your grief. And the more I can help you to heal your grief, is the more I am healed as well. But my healing is not of utmost importance. That's why I said, if I do for you what I need to be done for me, and we all do it for one another, love divine is existing, right? And this is afterlife divine. It's a sequential thing. He was not taught these seven degrees in haphazard order. And it is in this order that our lives need to go, and it is in this order then that the Melchizedek priesthood then first introduces it to the people, because we must start it on a level of which men can understand, right? With duty done comes happiness and joy, and gladness cheers the hearts of those who have passed on. Mawujabulile. The one thing that our parents wish is to see us happy. Once we are happy, they are free from their obligation. They are free from their obligation, because when they gave birth to us, they were obliged to make us happy. We imprisoned them for them to make sure that our well-being is taken care of. Once a parent realizes that this little nigga actually has a good head on his shoulders, or he can actually take care of himself, they step back. And so gladness cheers the hearts of those who have passed on. The weeping woman turned and went her way to find a happiness in helpfulness, to bury deep her sorrows in a ministry of joy. Then other carriers came and brought the body of a mother to the chamber of the dead, and just one mourner followed, a girl of tender years. And as the cottage near the door, hey, isingisi bawethu, the child The child observed a wounded bird in sore distress. A cruel hunter's dart had pierced its breast, and she left following the dead and went to help the living bird. This child was following, say, a dead mother, or this dead woman who she was accompanying, dead. And remember, Christ said to the mother of the son that, no, man, stop crying. That's not your son that you are following. And she left following the dead and went to help the living bird. And with tenderness and love, she folded to her breast the wounded bird and then hurried to her place. Like, do you hear this? She left the dead and went to go help something that is still living. And Jesus said to her, "Why did you leave your dead to save a wounded bird?" The maiden said, "This lifeless body needs no help from me, but I can help while yet life is. My mother taught me this." My mother taught me that grief and selfish love, hopes and fears are but reflexes from the lower self. So, ukubambelela entweni to what the Buddhists call attachment, causing suffering, attachment causing the dukkha, suffering, right? Suffering is caused by attachment. Yes, we are not saying don't be a person with aspirations. We are saying do not be attached, because what are you without it if you are attached? It is essentially then the problem that people who are addicted to drugs, addicted to certain lifestyles, then have a problem with. It is not the substance that they have a problem with, it is attachment to the feeling and the experience that they have a problem with, right? So, that what we sense are but small waves upon the rolling billows of a life, then these all will pass away. They are unreal. Tears flow from hearts of flesh. The spirit never weeps. I am longing for the day when I will walk in light, where tears are wiped away. My mother taught me that all emotions are the sprays that rise from human loves and hopes and fears, that perfect bliss cannot be ours until we have conquered these. And you know, our lives are constantly in harm's way. We are constantly putting ourselves in compromising situations. We are constantly opening ourselves to energies that latch on to us. And these energies, when they latch on to us, they latch on to us emotionally. Because how do you tell that someone is acting weird or is not themselves? You see it in the swing of emotions. Now there are mental illnesses which deal mostly the symptoms that you can tell that someone has that mental illness is the swing of emotions. And the world is the way it is because there are people who play strings with our emotions, the advertising world, the music industry, even priests and young and certain teachers who are on the internet right now are drawing at people's emotions, but not really dealing with the issue. this emotion pulling is clickbait. It's attention fishing. And once you give them the attention, you find that there's nothing really that they're really giving you, right? These things are unreal. And we can never hope to be free or to be free from the bondages of slavery. And this slavery is a slavery that holds our body and holds our mind and holds our heart. Attachment through feeling. We will stop being in a place of ruin, but we will never reach that place if we do not detach from these emotions. There's other things that people say, hey, no, I said it when I was angry, I didn't mean it. There's oh, I did this because I just wanted to feel good. The results are never good. And we put ourselves in these situations for fleeting, unreal things, right? And in the presence of that child, did Jesus bow his head in reverence. He said, for days and months and years I've sought to learn this highest truth that man can learn on earth. And here a child, fresh brought to earth, has told it all in one short breath. No wonder David said, O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings hast thou ordained strength. And then he laid his hand upon the maiden's head and said, I'm sure the blessings of my Father, the Almighty, or Father God, will rest upon you, child, forevermore. And in this understanding, this was the teaching that he had to solidify within. And you heard he had been asking himself for days, for months, for years. He's been searching for this truth. And because, you know, the truth is always around us, but the truth is never readily available to us. Iqiniso likhona emhlabeni, kodwa asondelanga eqinisweni, noma iqiniso linzima ukulithola noma liliningi kanje emhlabeni. With so much of the truth in the world, you have to vibrate according to that truth. So since he had done his 6th degree of love divine, of loving kindness, of the divine love of the Most High, which is the love I give you and you give me, that love that once we breathe, it creates a child, and that child is a product of love divine, which is the greatest aspirations of us as a people. Once he understood such a thing, it was simple then for him to even hear it from a child's mouth, because the truth shouldn't be complicated. The truth should be simple. When you hear it, it should make sense. And you can never ask the right questions if you are not in the space of those questions. And we need to raise our vibration, rise and rise and rise and rise and rise, up until we ask the right questions. Then the right people to answer those questions will appear. And having passed the 7th test, Jesus receives the 7th and highest degree, the Christ. He leaves the temple a conqueror. What did he conquer? He conquered all the things that test us as people. In our 7 chakras rests the 12 experiences. And the experiences in our mind will test us intellectually. The experiences in our mid-self, the higher self, will test us intellectually, or things of the spirit. The middle self will test us of things of love, will test us of things of hunger, will test us of things like charity and things like that. The things of the lower body will then test us of lower self things like fears, sexuality. We will then get tests like that. Like all of us are tested and most of us fail. Right? And because all of us have these 12 experiences, none of us can live outside of these 12 experiences. Anger, rashness, unrighteousness. The first of them, of most, being ignorance. And all of us have 7 chakras, and all of us have these 12 experiences, and none of us can escape them. None of us can escape anger. None of us can escape rashness or inconcupiscence. Hey, Ingesi. Lustfulness. All of these they're part of our nature, right? If there is God in man, there's the devil in man. If there is Christ in man, there is the Son of God in man, then the Son of Man must also exist, and the things that come with the Son of Man. And what are the things that come with the Son of Man? The ego. And these tormentors, these 12 experiences, are parts of the ego. These are the symptoms in which you see that the ego has power. And he leaves, it says here, he leaves the temple a conqueror. I'm not making this thing up. I didn't write this. This is a book even you guys can go and find, if you really want to find Linda Nkrumah ngayo, and read it with a clear conscience. Read it. Emperor Selassie said, read it with understanding. Read it with no chains binding you to a certain understanding. Read with the understanding of truth, right? And he left it a conqueror. He left it having conquered all these stages that lead to himself. And once we conquer, in the Gnostic Gospels, there's the Gospel of Philip and Gospel of Thomas. Sorry, it's one of these Gospels. So this is the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus. So it's the Gospel of Jesus, right? And it gives you the story of his mother, his life, John's mother, and John's life, right? And then the disciples as well. The Gospel of Thomas, in the Gospel of Thomas, there's a passage that says, seek, seek, seek until you find. And when you find, you will be disturbed. And once you are disturbed, you will marvel. And once you marvel, you will rule over all. Right? This ruling over all, first, when you seek and you seek and you seek, when you meditate, when you sit in silence and search for this thing, the first thing that will happen is that you will be disturbed by what you find. You'll be disturbed by the fact that the world is not what you think it is. The world is actually a beautiful place. You will be disturbed by the fact that you have not been a part of this world your whole life. And you need to relearn certain things. You need to be a baby, and that's uncomfortable. And after you do, you will marvel at how great this thing that you have learned is. Right? You will lose ownership of your old self. You will rise above the ego because you can't kill it. Can't kill your demons. If you try to kill them, trust me, they're more powerful than you. They were born the day you were born. The only thing is that they've had more practice at being themselves than you. And that's why you can't defeat your demons. You just have to find a space where you're like, okay, man, there's your space. This is where I am. This is where the show happens, right? And they stop being tormentors, and then they become avengers for you, or they become, yeah, I think avengers, for lack of a better word, right? And when a person enters a state of marvel, or you are amazed, you are in awe, and that state, nothing else can disturb you, because what you found, lento itholile, nothing can triumph over it. Nothing is more fair than what you have found. And this ruling over all, you then rule over all the members, what they call the members in the Bible, all the parts of your body, all the members that transgress. Your hands transgress, your eyes transgress, your mouth transgress, your ears transgress, your legs, your heart, all parts of us transgress, right? This conquering over all will also conquer now these tormentors. We'll go to war with them. That's why it's uncomfortable to go into yourself. We'll go to war with them. And a king must reach the Christ. And Jesus, the word, the suffix in his name, Christ, it's not his alone. In the Melchizedek order, the Christ is a Christhood, because these are the 7 brotherhood tests. He is entering a brotherhood, and you cannot be in a brotherhood alone. You cannot be in an office alone. You cannot be an administrator alone. Where did you take what you are administering to the people? Where were you trained? Who was your trainer? He was trained by a Christ, and himself became a Christ. And since then, even before, until now, there have been Christs. And the level or the office of the Christ is a realization. He was not taught this by a master, the last one. The child spoke to him and he realized that, oh, that one thing I've been asking myself all this time, it's this simple. It's a self-realization too. That's why they say, for Jesus to become the Son of God, he had to realize it. It was already there. He had to come into a realization, into an ascension state. And he ascended. And from this day, he could never die, because he understood that, oh, umuntu akafi. Okay, it's better to go with the living than the dead. Oh, and then you hear him say, let the dead bury the dead. And then people then don't get what he was saying. A child taught him that. To say it is better to look at living things than dead things, because you cannot help dead things. They do not need your help anymore either. Right? So even the lives that we live, that we are attached to, the things that we have set for ourselves that we have not attended to, dead. We do not. It can't help us. We can help it. Right? A child taught him that. But it was something that was already inside of him, because he already asked the right question. He just had to realize it. And this self-realization, I remember on the podcast we spoke about it, and the differences of understandings of Christ, and these two schools, the the Catholic Church. So the Church of Peter and the Church of Mark, right? Peter being the Holy See, where the Pope is, and Mark being where the Orthodox Abuna is, the bishop. I think he's a bishop of, not sure, Bishop of Armenia or something. But these Greek Orthodox, Eastern Orthodoxes, and Ethiopia is also on its own as well as part of those. But the Orthodox speak, we're trained in the Orthodox as well. The Orthodox speak of Christ being a state that all men can embody, or all men embodies, just needing realization. It being a state that is also not born of mother and father, a state that needs constant attention from you, a state that needs also guidance and initiation. And then the Catholic Church, they initiate, they still do the 7-year initiation for the priests, come out padres. They still then initiate further into the bishopry and the ababovu, ama cardinals, and those are all initiations, but those are all after the 7-year initiations that they still do. Where they differ with these Orthodox schools, both are Catholic, by the way. Both are the universal church, speaking this one truth. And it is universal because Christ spoke of a universal truth. The only problem is that they don't speak one thing, in a sense. So they are universal by name, in essence, now. The school of Peter, or the house of Peter, speaks of Christ's divinity being separate from his humanity. That none of us can be divine like Christ. That none of us can reach the state that he reached. But then that is why they then had to, as a school, take out certain books from the teachings of their masters, or of their masters, right? Like I said, there's the Gnostic Gospels, there's Philip's book, the book of Philip, the Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of Thomas, there's the Gospel of Mary Magdala, or Mary of Magdala. What now in the Bible, or who in the Bible now is called Mary Magdalene. It's actually Mary of Magdala. The Gospel of Judas Iscariot, very interesting. There is a couple of other Gospels as well that speak of essentially the same thing, but not in the way that Peter's school speaks of it. The extra canonical books, the non-dogmatic books, right? And in the Orthodox Church, they read those books. In the Catholic Church, it's read by the priests when they get up there, right? And then you have, there's a book here, it's an old book. I've been teaching with this book for almost probably over 20 years now, I'm sure. The Lost Books of the Bible and the Forgotten Books of Eden. Here you get, you get the stories of Eden and all the questions that people thought were existential about where people came from, that Cain went to go It's not so serious, my man. It's written. It's just that the Catholic Church didn't want you to know. Well, I wouldn't say the Catholic Church. There are certain priests over the 1,000 years of their existence that they had to build their school in the way that would work for them, and it worked for them. You can't fight someone for building their house the way they build it. Just that now, you said it's universal, and in the universe there's all of us. So we need to get to a point where we deal with things that deal with all of us. And the fact that someone physical died and came back physical, that's not going to work for us. The fact that we cannot enter a mythical place without this mythical person, that's not going to work for us now. The fact that even amasiko with our traditional rites and rituals are tied to your dogma, that's not going to work for us now. Because the school of Peter has separated us from God. The school of Peter, they are our brothers, as much as the Hindus are our brothers and the Muslim, the Sufi are our brothers. The school of Peter, they have separated us from the Almighty through the teachings and the withdrawing of certain books. When you give me a book and then you take out certain pages, right? I'm not going to really understand what the book is talking about. I'm going to get the gist of it, but the gist is not the entirety. Because when someone comes with information with those missing pages, I still need to fill in the gaps. And you find that we have inherited a system with holes in it, which the gaps must be filled. And every single age has this. It's not just our age. And that is why the Melchizedek have always been there. That is why the Chinese needed Buddha, Tao Te Ching, yeah. That is why the tradition of the Tao Te Ching was needed from those masters. That is why the yogi system was needed for those masters for India. That is why the Zoroaster, which is Sufism, in my opinion, just a modern Sufism. That's why they had to, establish the system that they established for their people, because there came a time where the systems that were established before and helped those stopped working, didn't work anymore. Like what we are facing now, the systems that have been here for the past 1,000 years, not working anymore, man. As much as systems that were there 1,000 years before that stemmed to the last ages of ancient Egypt, they stopped working for us, right? And 1,000 years before that, certain Bantu systems stopped working for certain Bantu people, right? It's not a phenomenon. So what's happening with the people right now, that they now need people to fill in the holes, is an age-old thing, and for many ages, and by ages we don't just mean 2,000 years, 2,160, and every 2,160 an age changes, and just right before the age changes, certain holes needs to be filled in, because there's information that needs to carry on to the next age. And that's what the Melchizedek is for. This cosmic order, this is a star that we must follow, to get to a certain truth. It is a truth that is in all men. That is why when we share, men show each other the way. And by men, I mean humans. we show each other the way. There's a truth in you that even a person like me who is learned will find, just as Christ found the Christ teaching in a child who put to her breast a half alive bird that just needed love to come back and put aside dead things. And we need to carry that with us. We need to be that. And for kingship, for ubukhosi to be that, we need to have these, right? These degrees in our minds, in our bodies, in our hearts. So, prophet, finished with that, right? Priest, the king, we finished with that. And then we get into the priest now. And I'm using Jesus as an example. There are so many other examples to use. So, a Melchizedek priest is a prophet, priest, and a king, right? So, when Christ then he continued with the sages, and then they gave him the 7 postulates, the 7, what we have come to know today from other schools as the 7 hermetic principles, right? Everything is thought, doubt, things like that, and that which you think you bring into existence, and they said, and men can let me just go back a bit. The age we enter is the preparation age, and all the schools and governments and worship rites must be designed in simple way that men may comprehend. And man cannot originate. He builds by patterns that he sees. So in this council, we must carve out pattern for the coming age, and we must formulate the gnosis. Gnosis is Greek for transformative knowledge. We must formulate the gnosis of the empire of the soul, which rests on 7 postulates. The empire of memory, right? So remember, we need to fill in the whole so that whatever we have gathered is the only thing we have gathered for this age. That's the only thing we can pass on. Everything else, my piano, my what, trap, lifestyles, yes, my blesser, Muslim queen, it's all gonna die here. What will carry on is love, is truth. And all that we have gathered is all that we want to carry on to the next age. And the perfect ideal space is to gather as much as possible so that when we fall in consciousness as a species, not just as a clan or race, or because we're not separate. When we fall, because we've been rising, when the time of the Melchizedek is over, we're going to fall back, just like when Atlantis fell. All right? Because at that time, the Melchizedek priests, high Melchizedek priests at that time were Thoth, Hermes, and them, right? As their stories say. When we as a species fall in consciousness, the amount that we have gathered will be where we stop. So if we gathered little, we'll go to almost the bottom of the bottom. If we gathered enough as a species, as humans on earth, if the pinnacle is here and we gathered this much, when the new age starts, we're going to start on a good note. And that's what these 7 postulates then spoke about, and these 7 masters, Mangtse, Pariapati, Vidyapati, Caspar, Ashbina, Apollo, Manetho, Philo, those great sages that they talk about here, these Melchizedek grandmasters, are the ones then who deal with these things. And they speak to him of a multitude of things, like all things are thought. Eternal thought is one. In essence, it is two. Intelligence and force. And when they breathe, a child is born. This child is love. And thus the triune God there, Kidmawa Haile Selassie, stands forth, whom men call Father, Mother, Child. Amata Ramasedi, the triune God. Kidmawe Haile Selassie. This triune God is one, but like the one of light, is in essence he is seven. And when the triune God breathes forth, behold, seven spirits stand before his face. These are the creative attributes. Men call them lesser gods, and in their image they made men. So this is Vidyapachi, the second one, right? Caspar comes. Man was a thought of God, formed in the image of the septonate, those seven spirits, clothed in the substance of soul, in the substances of soul, and his desires were strong. He sought to manifest on every plane of life, and for himself he made a body of the ethers of the earthly forms, and so descended to the plane of the earth. In this descent he lost his birthright, lost his harmony with God, and made discordant all the notes of life. Inharmony and evil are the same, so evil is the handiwork of man. And what Caspar is talking about here is that what you think, what you plan, will manifest. If you're thinking negatively, negativity will manifest. If you're thinking positively, positivity will manifest. And Caspar here, our thoughts, when they manifest and we do not be in harmony with them, we're living in evil, man. And we do that. We are the ones who choose that. We are the ones who do the things that we should not do. And that is why evil is the handiwork of man. Right? And then Ashbina comes in. Ashbina says, seeds do not germinate in light. They do not grow until they find the soil and hide themselves away from light. Man has evolved a seed of everlasting life, but in the ethers of the triune God, the light was far too great for seeds to grow. And so man sought the soil of carnal life. The world of material bondage. And then, and in the darksomeness of earth, he found a place where he could germinate and grow. The seed has taken root and grown full well. The tree of human life is rising from the soil of earthly things. And under natural law, this cosmic law, this law that drives all things, is reaching up to perfect form. There are no, and I will repeat this, there are no supernatural acts of God to lift a man from carnal life to spiritual blessedness. There are no spiritual acts of God to lift a man from carnal life to spiritual blessedness. All of you guys that are doing very dark rituals for riches. Some of you are even doing dark rituals to meet God. Can I tell you, there's no magic. There's no supernatural, there's no out of this world thing then that can help you see something that is inside of you. And if you don't find it, no one is going to help you find it. There's no medicine, there's no spell, there's no what none of them are going to help you if you do not find it yourself. If you are not in harmony, you won't find it, right? And he grows as grows the plant, and in due time is perfected. The quality of soul that makes it possible for man to rise to spirit life is purity. And this purity, what is purity? You do that you say that you will do. You do it in truthness. You do it in blessedness. And by blessedness, you do it earnestly. You do it with all your heart, expecting no congratulations, expecting no reward. Right? And then the fifth postulate is said by Apollo. The soul is drawn to perfect light by 4 white steeds, and these are will and faith, helpfulness and love. Hey, you cannot have a perfect life or remember perfect things or live perfect memories, or we as a people, like I was saying, that the soul memory is something that we need to live here, so that when we fall in consciousness we must bounce back as high as possible. We cannot think that we can amass anything physical. It is not the amassing of technology that is going to take us there. It's not the amassing of wealth that's going to take us there. It's not the amassing of land. Hey, land this, land that. Guys are still stuck on physical things, still stuck on the low things of the world, still stuck on the lower recesses of the self. The things that the things that we must amass so that we rise in consciousness as a species is will and faith, helpfulness and love. Hey, agreed. That which one wills to do, he has the power to do. A knowledge of that power is faith. And when faith moves, the soul begins its flight. Hey, here's what. That which you will to do, that which you put strength, you put time, you put intelligence and force, those two that the other master was talking about. The eternal thought is one. Vidyapach was saying this. Eternal thought is one. In essence, it is two: intelligence and force. And when they breathe, a child is born, and this child is love. Hey, that's what Siahlani. That which one wills to do, he has the power to do. So this child is love, and power reading. It's power, not fleeting power, technology, money, all these things. Love, right? He has the power to do. A knowledge of that power is faith. When, for you to know, like we were saying earlier, when you know something, you know it inside you. And when you know it inside you, no one can take it away from you. And that's what faith does. When you have faith in that which you have set for yourself, no one can take it away from you. And when you know it, it is power to you, right? And when faith moves, the soul begins its flight. You start to check the right boxes, because our souls need to go through certain experiences. There are certain memories that we need to amass, we need to put into the box, because in these memories lies the key to what we need to amass. If all of us have a memory of trauma, like what's happening right now, trauma, hate, lustfulness, all those things, if we amass like we are doing right now, we are amassing all these things, we're going, some being young, we're amassing dark energies. And I'm not saying yin are wrong, no. You guys are going to yin for the wrong reasons. Inkinga yena anazi ukuthi inyanga yokwenzani, anazi nokuthi umshado yokwenzani, anazi nokuthi indoda noma umfazi yokwenzani. When you amass all these negative things, I'm telling you, because they are fleeting, we're not going to have anything to bounce back on, right? And yeah, it's scary to think about, right? So our flight is amassing the positive things, which is will, faith, helpfulness, and love. And when they start to fly, we start to amass this thing, because something that's flying has transcended physical things, right? A bird can leave the earth's problems for that moment that it's in the earth. You understand? That's what flight is. Then a selfish faith leads not to light. There is no lonely pilgrimage on the way to light. There are certain things you need to learn along the way. You won't teach yourself those things. There are people that you must impart those things to. You won't reach there without those people either, right? And men only gain the heights by helping others gain the heights. The steed that leads the way to spirit life is love, is pure, unselfish love. The fastest horse, right? There's these four white horses, right? Now Revelation, these four white horses are will, faith, helpfulness, and love. The fastest of them that leads you to the way of pure spiritual life, or what people call spiritual life, because we are all spiritual, the fact that we are alive, right? But this way of spirit life is love, pure, unselfish love, not a love of things. Love of yourself, love of the Almighty, the love of nature, meaning the world around you, the people around you, the trees around you, so forth, right? And the systems around you as well, if they bring life, right? And the sixth one is Manetho. Matheno says, the universal love of which Apollo speaks is child of wisdom and of will divine. Hey, this love, this steed, this pure unselfish love, this other sage says, is the child of wisdom and of will divine. You will not gain wisdom without these things. And it is the will, it is the way to reaching the will of the divine. It is the way of finding one's purpose. It is the way of driving one's purpose. It is the way of allowing one's purpose to meet one in a space of availability. Nicola Machiavelli speaks about availability. And this availability is opportunity is always there. Energy is always there. You need to meet it. And there's also a mathematical theory about this. I'll remember that if it's moving at a certain pace and you're moving at a certain pace, you might not reach it. Move, and then at the axis, opportunity meets availability. Nicola Machiavelli was talking about building a perfect state. And this perfect state, because we are not living in the world that Nicola Machiavelli was living in, this state, these principalities that he was talking about, is you, the person. This kingdom or this princedom is you, the person. And this is what they're talking about, right? That the divine, the will of the divine will then be there. We need to meet it there, and we can only meet it there once we enter the state of love, raised our vibration, right? And God has set it forth to earth in flesh that men may know. We cannot love without loving man. And God has set it forth to earth in flesh that man may know that what? Universal love is child of wisdom and of will divine. The universal love of which the sages speak is Christ. Here's what? Not the person, the state, the isigaba, the state, yeah man, for lack of better words, I can translate it into different languages that I know. And this state, Christ, is the state of oneness with all.